it's Alex and welcome back to my channel. Over here is day 29. The prompt word was injured, and you can find the link to this video in the top right corner. If it's there, I'm sorry that for a few of these I've gotten a little bit lazy on that, but I will be going back and fixing those. But today we have our last watercolor for this entire Inktober series. It is Pastel Rose from Ecoline 390. I considered for Catch continuing on with Andrea and Raven, since both Raven and Andrea are a pretty nice catch, but I had this really cute idea for an older witch going on an adventure to get some potion supplies, so I decided to instead go for that. And something that I realized, also these little scratches on my wrist are actually from work, so don't worry about those. While I was looking back at a few of my older pieces, I realized that I really liked how I did this cathedral-style background outline, and it was a lot more freeform, and this works a little bit better in my opinion with markers because it's a little easier for me to control the markers. But I wanted to kind of give this a shot again, since I haven't actually done a piece with this style of background since... I guess you could kind of say that the piece that I did for just a Sharpie challenge sometime in 2018 had this cathedral style window, but that was an illustration that was supposed to be kind of based more like a stained glass window in the first place, so not exactly the best of comparisons, I guess. But for this adventurer witch, I think the name Gladys kind of came to my mind for this adventurous lady. And for her outfit, I kind of referenced what I would have worn on my field camp adventures out in Utah. These kind of like convertible zip pants and then a button-up shirt of some kind. And I figured that an actual adventuring witch hat would be a little bit shorter. And I actually have a hat in my wish list that I've been wanting to get like this for a while, and I just reminded myself of it before working on this piece, so I decided to add this style of hat in. And since today might be the last piece that I do a human in, I decided that since I started with an elf girl in the first piece, I would do an elf girl in this piece. Now, for the line art of this piece, I absolutely hated how I did the face of the bat who is inside the cage and still flying. I wish I would have made him like the other two that are just kind of like featureless. Also the one that's kind of like floating up above. I like how chunky he is, but I'm not exactly a big fan of how I rendered those bats. I almost said owls, and that's not correct. I also am not a big fan of how I did the cage and the net, which are like, I'd say 40% of this piece. For the cage on her back, I did a flat cage. I really didn't put a lot of perspective into it. However, for the net, since I did a perspectively circular opening, I decided that I have to add perspective to the netting. So I started off with these circles, and the further in I got, the more I realized this looks fucking ugly. It also hurt that I didn't sketch out the netting beforehand, because I was like, the point of Inktober was to not worry about line arts and just go right to the page with a pen. It'll be fine. No, that net is the ugliest looking thing. I specifically make that part of the painting dark just to make it a little less obvious that I messed up so much on the netting. I also meant to zoom you guys in when I did this, the black ink grass down at the bottom, but of course I must have double clicked my record button because I looked up at my phone when I was done and it was just off. Because that's the way of things, apparently. I got you the line art today, just not the grass part. Then again, I've already done that on, I think, 3 other pieces through this entire Inktober, because it was day 1, day 3, and day 14, I want to say, but I can't remember for sure. I wish I would have gone in and done the bats in straight black. I went with the number 5 wash because I wanted to make sure that, like, they were dark, but still not the darkest I could have possibly gone. I don't think it was the best of choices. It makes the bats look too dull against the background. I think I might actually go and change that later. The sky in the background, at the very top I went in with a black just because I wanted to make sure that looked the most opaque. Then I took a mixture of one of my acrylic ink washes and the pastel rose watercolor. It probably wasn't a good idea to mix the acrylic ink with the watercolor. It did make it like a little easier to work with just because wherever I got it inside of a line that I didn't want it was able to be pulled up a little bit easier, and you'll see that later when I put down a color on the shirt that's a little bit too gray, and then I go back in later with a more blush tone. But I wanted to have it kind of fade from true black to pink at the bottom, but I didn't exactly know how I wanted to do that when going in. I considered splitting it into thirds, but with how much of the subject is in the bottom of the picture, I didn't want to make the background equal. Besides, if I made it thirds, most of the netting would be over top of the black, and that wouldn't have turned out very well. I'm surprised how much I like this pastel rose color. Like, recently, I've just really been liking pinks. And that's absolutely foreign to me. After I was done working on this piece, I realized that I could have put references to both day 14 and day 3 in this piece. Like, I could have had some of the flags from the background of day 3, and then I could have put the hint of the tower from day 14 in the background. I could have done something to connect all the pieces, but I don't think that's something I'm going to add in. I'm for sure going to go in and change the color of the bats before I either make prints of this or make a booklet. I almost concluded this piece, but then I realized that I noted that I wanted some stars at the top of the cathedral window in the thumbnail, so I added those in real quick, and I realized that the bottom part was missing a little something, and I couldn't exactly go in and add in more clouds at this point, so I decided to add a few small bats to the background, just to show that there's even more for her to catch. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me work on this piece, and I hope you guys are excited for the last day of Inktober. Tomorrow's word is ripe, and we have a Liquitex acrylic ink in, I believe it's medium azo yellow. If you feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles. Thanks, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the last day of Inktober.